on Saturday and Sunday. Push your caliente.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
You don't.
Which is fine. Yeah.
I would work like
10
that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was sure he says,
That's right.
I mean, I don't complain about that. Like I said, I can hear caliente music on Saturday and Sunday.
Time is 7 o'clock. We're going to call our meeting to order. Please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Zach Tucker,
Here.
Kurt Schultz,
Here.
Jennifer Eden is absent, Mike Cunningham,
Here.
David Walker,
Here.
Herman Ferguson,
Here.
Pam Loeffler, here.
I'll take approval for the agenda.
So moved. Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Next is approval of the consent agenda, the regular board meeting minutes from March 28th, 2023.
So moved.
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? We have no communications. Public remarks. If anybody would like to make any public comments about what's on tonight's agenda, please come up, have a seat, and address the board. All right, being that there's none, we'll move on to new business. Item number 1 is a resolution to recognize Frenton Pride Collective as a nonprofit organization to obtain a charitable gaming license. This is a requirement by the state of Michigan. Some of those requirements is that they have to live in the township and petition the township in which they live. They have to file certain documents, they have to be a 501c3, and they have met all the criteria for that, and all they need is a resolution from us so they can continue their charitable gaming license application.
So resolved. Support.
It's been resolved and supported to recognize Fenton Pride Collective as a nonprofit organization to obtain a charitable gaming license. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Kurt Schultz,
Yes.
Herman Ferguson,
Yes.
Zach Tucker,
Yes.
David Walker,
Yes.
Mike Cunningham,
Yes.
Jennifer Eden is absent, Pam Loeffler, yes.
That resolution passes. Moving on to item number 2, it's a request for a moratorium for solar farms. As you know, we do have a ordinance regarding solar and solar farm projects in our township. As of late, I've been keeping a pulse on what's going on with that and noticed that there's been some major concerns in Marion Township, Conway Township, and a few other ones. Talked to a couple supervisors. I actually spoke with our engineer, and after finding out some of the issues that were being presented and some of the public outreach on it, I decided to have our ordinance reviewed by Livingston County Planning, because they're right in the center of all this. Make sure that our ordinance it does what we want it to do, and that's protect the best interest of our residents. So they provided us a complimentary review. It took a couple weeks. I got it back. Sent it to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission looked at it, worked with our planner. They recommended that we put a moratorium. Since this moratoriums have met a lot of legal challenges, I sent it over to legal for review and make sure that they draft the right language in our moratorium so that if we were to face a legal challenge, we'd be able to defend it. I also checked with the MTA on this, so I feel confident that we have the right document in place, and I would request that the Township Board enact a moratorium while we revise our solar farm ordinance to protect the best interests of our residents.
Is this a resolution?
Yeah, it should be.
So resolved.
Support.
It's been resolved and supported to enact a moratorium on solar projects in Tyrone Township. Any further discussion?
Can you get them to correct the spelling on the second page?
What's-
For any property subject to or under, so there's a spelling error. Not to be that guy, but I'll be that guy, there's a spelling error.
Well, we can correct it here.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, subject to, not to.
Yep. Guess what I mean?
Yep, so that's been adjusted. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Tony Ferguson,
Yes.
Zach Tucker,
Yes.
Kurt Schultz,
Yes.
Mike Cunningham,
Yes.
Jennifer Eden is absent, David Walker,
Yes.
Pam Mochler, yes.
That resolution passes. Next is item number 3. It's our commercial insurance renewal for the township. Pam, do you want to give us a
Sure. Our,
summary of that?
our commercial insurance policy renewal for the township, it's increased around $4,000. That's due to the cost keeping up with inflation. It's about a 6% total. Materials cost more, so replacement costs are increasing. It also is due to the zoning dispute for the litigation with Tyrone Ford.
Okay.
How much did this go up from last year?
Just
Could
over
be.
4,000,
4,000?
yeah.
Yeah.
If there's not any further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Support?
It's been motioned and supported to renew our insurance policy, our commercial insurance policy for the township. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We are done with new business. We don't have any miscellaneous business. Public remarks? Yeah, what is that?
World Cheers. Scott Dietrich, White Lake Road. I just showed Kurt a picture, and this, you guys haven't dealt with it, but I've told you this before. Peabody came in here to ask about ice climbing, and I told you that we still haven't got anything on this yet. It's been several months. He hasn't been, he's now posted on his site, he's got it all fixed up, he's doing rock wall climbing over there. He didn't even ask for that. I mean, he just keeps adding on and adding on and adding on. I mean, like I said, I was all for what he proposed, and I thought it was limited, and it wasn't gonna be overwhelming our community. I mean, more and more and more. I'm afraid that if he just keeps going, I mean, I'm not the one that complained, I don't know if anybody complained, all I know is he was brought here to conform, and he's not conforming, and he's piling on. And I said this before, and I think that I'm gonna say it again. I think it needs to go back to public hearing. And he needs to specifically tell us what he's gonna do, because that's not what the planning commission approved. A lot of the stuff he did, he didn't approve, it wasn't approved. And I know he was, the last event he had, there was a raffle, he was advertising a raffle, and I don't even think he was licensed to do a raffle there. And here we just had people come in to get legally licensed to do that as a nonprofit. So I'm not sure on that, but we gotta, that's something that concerns me. But like I said, I'm just worried about this. You guys were concerned, what was going on over there. I'm concerned with the traffic. And I think those people up and down that whole road will be concerned about all the traffic in the future. So I know, because I get on White Lake Road, and it's getting worse every year. But I think we gotta really seriously look at it and send it back to the planning commission. Thank you guys very much. Happy Easter.
Thanks, Scott. Anyone else?
Jeanette Rapetta, from Fenton. So there's an item that I was really hoping to see on the agenda. Last week, for those who were at the meeting, a man spoke regarding security concerns at Heartland Schools. Do you guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And his concerns were about the lack of security at Heartland Schools. He mentioned that that concern was addressed by the Heartland superintendent at their board meeting, and he asked their audience to go approach the townships and ask them if they would consider a discussion about what might be able to be done from a township level to help with security at the schools. Now, so this man, he, first of all, what he said was that he came in, or I'm sorry, he called and talked to Mike, and then he asked all of you guys if you'd heard about it. Of course, nobody, was able to acknowledge it. So what he was doing was repeating that request that night. And he showed up to the meeting, he said, because after calling the supervisor and asking if it could get on the agenda, he noticed it wasn't on the agenda, so he came to speak about it. After he sat down, another resident suggested, hey, why don't we take some of the COVID money? Maybe we could do that and help out with security at schools. Talk about it, right? So I'm wondering why the township doesn't want to discuss this. We have $1 million plus COVID relief money, and I asked last week, where can I see that in the budget? I honestly can't find it. So the response from the supervisor when I said, what will the COVID relief money be used for? I got the answer, roads. And I'd like to know how that was determined, how we use the COVID money for that, because I don't believe the public was asked. This money, as you know, the government just doesn't have money to give. This money came from us, right? We've asked several times up till this release of the money if we could have discussion about how it might be used. So, and the township didn't vote on this, but we're gonna use it for roads. The last thing I remember from our current governor, her campaign promise was to fix the damn roads, right? But now we're gonna do it for her? And how much did we use those roads during COVID that justify that we should spend that money on the roads? We used the roads very limited during that time. And so now the government's saying, well, it's okay to fix the roads. I don't care what the government says. I don't think it's appropriate for Tyrone Township to use this $1 million plus to fix the roads. Why don't we look at what some of the real bad things that happened from COVID? For example, the mental illness of some of our children, how they were masked up, how they were kept at home, where they couldn't participate in sports, etc. And now we've got kids that are threatening to do things and they can't get the right security in the schools. Maybe that would be a good thing to think about spending the COVID money on. These kids that go to Heartland schools and the others, there are kids in this township. I think it's really worth a discussion, and I think it was brought to the attention of the board in good faith. I don't see why it can't be discussed. But I really don't see how fixing the roads that Gretchen was going to fix in the first place, that we hardly used during COVID, is a good reason to spend money, that COVID money, and especially when the residents and the people weren't even asked to give any opinion or any input into how this money would be spent. So the one thing I can say that COVID did affect was the mental stability of a lot of these kids, and a lot of our schools are really in danger with security. Should the schools be paying for this and doing it? Probably. But what are we saying when we're not responding to a request just to even discuss how we can help these schools with their security? So I would respectfully request that it be put on the agenda, and that also that the people be asked how they want to spend this COVID money. And I'll ask the whole board, did any of you vote to spend it on the roads? Or is this just one person's decision to spend it on the roads?
Anyone else? All right, being there's none, we have no other business, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
It's been motioned and supported to adjourn our meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
So we're going to put two intentions. 14. They can. But they almost for a can. From the standpoint of that.
you timing us, Bill?
And they don't have to get SAP or something.
It's usually how it is. It's a contract. Solar farms.
Establishing the safety from all the township